This is Eckington Youth Club that's behind me at the moment, and it supports the youth of Eckington from the north of Eckington and the south of Eckington. In fact, it takes in anyone who's within the division of Eckington on any one particular night. It also supports assisted adults and social services provision within this area. Well, the proposed changes as far as the whole of the county is concerned is to review all of the multilateral provision. That is how we provide services into the youth of any particular area, and that means that we look at sexual health, we're looking at counselling, we're looking at activities in many ways. What you would lay out as a normal youth club, right through to the ping pong and the pool and having a cup of tea and a bit of a chat, and that's served Eckington and many of the youth clubs across Derbyshire very well for many years.
Just to explain a bit of the background to what's been happening in Eckington, across the county council area, so across the county of Derbyshire, proposals have come forward to close all the Derbyshire County Council youth service. So that means 29 youth centres, a fleet of mobile youth vehicles, over 150 qualified youth workers, jobs at risk. So we're talking about big stuff here. It's come about because of the climate we're in. Obviously councils are facing reduced budgets, and Derbyshire's got to save, I think, £25 million next year. So that's the context to it. But where we take issue is the fact that young people are being targeted here with a service that's very important to them, that they value very much. And we've heard that time and again when we visited youth centres, and especially in Eckington. The young people have been brilliant at putting their case forward. So, you know, we don't think there's been proper analysis of what the youth service offers, and there's not been any evidence to show that it's not delivering anything other than a fantastic service. So why these proposals are coming forward now, it's really wrong to target young people like this.
We just completed a consultation. It closed on the 18th of March. We had just over 3,700 responses to that consultation. Of those, over 1,500 were from young people, and of those, quite a significant proportion don't access any kind of youth provision at all in the county. And so they were the people that really we were interested in hearing from, as well as those who were already accessing youth services, be it our own DCC provided youth service in the county, or those provided by voluntary community and independent sector organisations in the county. So it was a controversial set of proposals that we put out there, and the reason they were controversial was we were asked by the opposition groups, the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats, to be honest, and we wanted to be honest anyway. So we put out there an open set of proposals that said, right, we want to consult on these, and we want to consult on this as widely as possible and reach as many young people as possible. And to that end, we had 7 stakeholder events around the county, in each of the districts, and there were also 4 sort of specialist user group consultation events as well, held for people from black, minority and ethnic groups and disabled groups as well, so they could give their views on what it was that they wanted out of a youth service in the future. You see, nothing's been done about youth services in the county now for 30, 40 years in terms of a review or a consultation or asking what young people actually thought of about those services. So, we've been in control of the authority for a couple of years, and there's some changing national background as well with a Positive for Youth agenda that's been announced fairly recently. So that gave us the thinking really to sort of have a look at youth services and how they're provided in the county.
I chair Eckington Youth Parish Forum, which is basically a group of young people. We've got, I think, about about a dozen young people aged between 13 and 19. We meet every Tuesday here at Eckington Youth Centre. We do a lot of different things in the community to try and help different people, vulnerable people, elderly people. At the forefront of what we're doing at the moment is obviously the proposed cuts to youth provision by DCC. Basically, Derbyshire County Council want to cut funding to youth centres. I believe it's in the range of £800,000. to specifically youth provision in Derbyshire. They're hoping if they manage to make part-time youth workers redundant, then voluntary groups will step in, obviously with access to grants from DCC to help run the services. They say that they've got quite a lot of people, voluntary groups coming into each youth centre individually. They've got a massive uptake of youth centres. But at the end of the day, we feel as young people that there's no one who can do a better job than our youth workers, especially people who won't be getting paid for it.
Really the issue here is you've got a really excellent high quality youth service providing provision for young people who really value the staff and the nights out they get in youth clubs like this one in Eckington. And I think the Conservative controlled council have been extremely naive with these proposals. This really comes down, I think, to David Cameron's Big Society, where they thought they could close this youth club on a Friday night, and on a Monday morning volunteers would be coming in just to run the service like that. It can't work like that. In Derbyshire at the moment, the County Council professional service works very closely with the voluntary sector across Derbyshire, and they work extremely well together. We don't think you can just take out all of the Derbyshire County Council professional workers and then hope and cross your fingers that it will all continue.
Yeah, when these proposals first came out, and that was like the end of December, beginning of January, it was felt that a petition would be a good idea, and it was Katie and Greg in Eckington that said they would get a petition going. So it's been online on the County Council website, and we've also got paper versions of it that have been right across the county. And we set off with the aim of getting 7,500 signatures, because that is the number. If you get over that number in Derbyshire, you can have a debate in the council. So that was the target.
Well, the community's responded very well. The youth club leaders have actually stepped back and let the young people in this youth club take the lead. And I'm really proud to say that the youth club petition, which is going across the whole of Derbyshire, this particular youth section pushed it well over the 10,000 mark by putting in a whole host of names which amounted to over 2,000, and I'm really pleased with that. And of course it's now gone well into the 13,400 mark.
Well, with regards to the petition, well, you know, I understand we've had 13,000 odd people sign that petition, which is quite a high number of people. But you know, there has been a lot of opposition generated to the proposals that we put out there, and I suppose that's fair enough. That's what politics is all about at the end of the day. But you know, when you sit and think about it, what it takes to you know, sign a petition is relatively straightforward. Lots of people do it. They're out there all the time, and it's quite an easy process. Quick signature here, and away you go, sort of thing. But there's a big difference between that and somebody sitting down and saying, right, I'm going to fill in this form. I want to make my views known as part of this consultation. And, you know, working through a sheet of several pages, or going online and doing the same thing and really making your mark in that way. There's a big difference between the two. So, you know, on the one hand, I welcome the debate. We need it. As I say, it's been 30 or 40 years since anyone's looked in detail at youth service provision in this county. So it gives us an opportunity to have that debate.
Now, the biggest issue, I think, here is the way that young people have been consulted, because they really haven't had their say in these proposals. They've not been listened to, and I think they've tried to make their voices really loud, especially here at Eckington. The young people here at the Eckington Youth have been absolutely brilliant, very confident, articulate young people, putting their arguments across brilliantly. And I think they're going to have to be listened to by the time this whole situation is over.
One of the best, there've been a series of consultation meetings right up and down Derbyshire, and sad that we've been to most of them. But the best one by far has been the one that's been here at Eckington Youth Centre, because it was organised by the UFI, the Parish Youth Forum. They chaired it, they ran it, they got the councillor who's responsible for these proposals and the officer who's leading on it as well, got them here, kept them here for 3 hours, asking really probing questions and making their views known. The other issue about this building is that it's used by other groups in Eckington as well. There's the Monday Club, which is for adults with learning disabilities, and they were at the meeting, and they were very articulate and vocal as well about what this building means to them and where they will be without it. And you know, they put up a really, really strong case for this centre to stay open, and Eckington should be proud of the young people they've got.
There must have been at least 50, 60 people who came down to the meeting that we had when we invited Councillor Lewis down and Ian Thomas down here. Basically, we invited as many people who are specific stakeholders in Eckington Youth Centre, from people from the Youth Fee, from people from the Monday Club, parish councillors. Brian Ridgway came down. He was great. He asked questions. We had a community support officer from the police. He came down. We had loads of different people down, and it was going on for 3.5 hours, and he was very well aware of the feelings behind it. And one of the specific parts I mentioned in one of the bits that I spoke, I used the word slashed. Ian Thomas pulled me up on saying the word slashed instantaneously. He was straight there, and he said that he felt that it was excessive. He thought it was over the top, the language that I was using, and you know, we came straight back at him equally. A lot of people, myself, Councillor Charles Weston, straight back at him saying this is the emotion behind it, this is how strongly we feel. It's not over the top, it's the bare facts about what it means to everyone.
These people feel very, very aggrieved, and we're talking about the people here. Jane, who's the youth club leader, has been very, very supportive in the background, and Greg, I have to say, Greg, who's chair of this youth club provision, he's spearheaded it as well. Many people will have seen the local newspapers and everything else. He has come out absolutely fantastically on understanding all the issues and taking it right back to the politicians and saying why.
Well, one of the most significant things, I think, is about getting a sort of equity of provision across the county. There are some parts of the county that were relatively well served, not only by our youth service provision, but by the VCI sector. But there are other parts of the county where there's not so much going on. In terms of the sort of split of delivery, if you like, so the voluntary community independent sector, we think provides around 70% of youth services, youth activities in the county. And we, as an authority, provide about 30%. And it's also quite an expensive service for us to deliver in comparison to a voluntary community independent sector provider, because they can, on the one hand, access other funds and lottery monies and things like that, which we necessarily can't for various reasons. So that's quite an important consideration as well. But it's really about getting to those parts of the county that aren't getting some kind of youth provision at the moment. And it's surprising how many people out there aren't getting any kind of youth provision.
I think there's just a lack of understanding about what a youth worker provides, and it's not just about opening a building up and playing table tennis and having a drink of pop like, perhaps it was in our day. It's about the relationship that young people have got with youth workers and the trust that they've got in them, and the sort of advice and support and guidance that they can get from youth workers that maybe you can't talk to your parents about, or you don't feel able to talk to a teacher about, but they can seek out a youth worker, and they've got that strength of a bond there that they can talk about stuff and know they're going to get good advice.
I just want to give reassurance to people, basically, that there won't be an issue around young people being provided with services by untrained people. That's not going to happen. There will be at least a minimum level of service. In fact, there will be a level of service, a minimum level, standard, if you like, which currently doesn't exist in the voluntary community independent sector in some places because of the passport scheme, for one thing. But voluntary organisations also provide trained youth workers. They are paid youth workers as well.
They've got 150 trained youth people. Why bring volunteers in? The volunteers in the community do a fantastic job all the way around, but it's also supportive of the youth leaders, and the youth leaders are supportive of them. If you are going to actually put qualified people out of work and then try and train people from the community to run these things, where are they going to do it, and what's the future of this building? And I'll be asking Barry Lewis and the director at County Council what's going to happen to this building.
The next stage, really, we have full council on the 18th of April, just a few days away, and there will be a debate there. There will no doubt be public questions and political questions as well of that. Following that, we will have a cabinet paper which will come to cabinet in May.
You know, at the end of the day, it's a massive meeting for us against the cuts, and you know that's effectively where the decision will be made.
The next stage is what I'm worried about. Obviously, the youth club here is in danger, and this is where I need to apply myself now. There is a county petition. There is certainly a county wide protest against some of the Tory cuts that are going to go on, and it's about cuts. It's about money. Let's not kid ourselves. When we talk about top slicing, they are taking so many millions out of the youth budget, and it is the youth of these towns that will suffer.
The things that we're doing is we're setting up a county-wide BCI youth forum, if you like. So all of the providers that do activities for young people in the voluntary community independent sector can come together on a regular basis and share best practice, share ideas, help each other, support each other, and also identify those parts of the county. And this is the important bit where there is nothing happening at the moment for young people, and move in to provide something there. And we'll work with them, we'll support them as best as we can as well to ensure that happens, and that we can help them identify where those places are that we need to have youth provision in the future.
Certainly, the way I feel is they shouldn't target one specific area. They should more trim off every area of youth provision. And at the moment, all we can keep doing is keep fighting for it to stop them shutting it down, and basically just hope that it pays dividends.
What we would like is for Councillor Lewis and his colleagues in the Conservative group to listen to what the people are saying, take note of the number of signatures and review their proposals and think again, really. They've been to Eckington, they've seen the strength of opinion from young people. If they are genuine about listening to people, they will change their minds about this.
I'd like to outline a vision a little bit, and that is to ensure that we have more things to do for young people throughout the county. As I mentioned before, it's ensuring that those parts of the county, those young people that don't have access to any kind of youth offer, get some access to activities in the future, and ensuring that we have a uniformity of access across the county, which we currently don't have. And I think that's exceedingly important. It's about doing things differently. It's not about taking anything away. These are sort of straitened economic times, and we do have to think about how we deliver services in the future, and this is just another aspect of that. And just to highlight that, as my department, CAIA, the Children and Young Adults Department, has managed to save £14 million over the last couple of years or so, and at the same time we've managed to improve outcomes for young people, get more good Ofsteds for children's centres, that sort of thing. And our safeguarding services have also been rated good as well. Our adoption service is good with excellent features. So, all of these things we managed to do while saving considerable sums of money. And this is just another part of that, and we will deliver a better service for less money.
The Derbyshire County Council Labour Group are calling for a Young People's Summit. That'll happen on the 21st of April at Alfreton Grange School at 10 o'clock. And we're asking for as many people to come together as possible and voice their protests. There will be Toby Perkins will be there, Natasha M will be there, and the eminent Mr Skinner will also be there to make his voice heard, as he always does. And there will be a lot of sense heard in that room, and I hope that the County Council, and Mr Lewis in particular, is listening, because if he is, then it's not too late to backtrack, it's not too late to back down and sit at the table and find out we can do this a lot better than you're proposing.